I'm the Soundtracker, and my hi-fi system is constantly changing. I like to try new pieces, I like to get new gear and see what it's all about. Now, I've never owned anything from Yamaha before, and I was super excited to get a surround amplifier of theirs recently. Now, it's used and I was able to make sure that it worked, but it came with this. This is one of the best, I'm sure Dad knows what he's doing, fix-it jobs that I've ever seen, and I'll say this for it. At least it works. I like this receiver a lot, and I'm not happy with the Modern Art Masterpiece on the end of its power cable here. So today we're going to go over how to replace the plug end and wire it properly. And I also want to open this by saying electricity is dangerous. If you don't feel confident doing this, electricians are worth the money. So for this project we can go one of two ways, either replacing the entire cable or just replacing the plug end. I'm going to be covering both of them, starting with the easiest, replacing the entire cable. Now this is going to vary from hi-fi to hi-fi, but the principle is the same. Replace the entire cable, plug and all, with a new one. The first thing that we have to do is open up our hi-fi and look inside where the power cable enters, so off come the screws around the perimeter of the receiver. And once those are out, off comes the cover. So where the power cable enters here, you can see that it's connected to the circuit board, and there's a socket right down there that's connected to the other end of the cable. I love these. They make this part so much easier because now we can look on eBay for a replacement cable. So I'm going to get these wires out of the way. There we go. And on the other end here, there's a tab on the front that you have to press down and give it a little wiggle and it pops right out. There we go. And now with this, and once I pull this out of the strain relief connector, there, it just comes apart. And now we can start our search. Alright, so in eBay we're going to look for the model of our receiver. In my case, Yamaha HTR 5150. Power cable. There we go. And there are a couple of results up top here, nothing matching specifically the 5150, so I'm going to keep scrolling and see if I find anything related. Let's see. Well, there's a lot of different types and styles of power connectors, but none of these are really the one that we're looking for. So, fun fact about mass production though, different numbers of receivers in the same line of products typically have very similar internals. So, in this case, at the top of the, even though we've searched for HTR 5150, we've got HTR 5630 down here. And I'd like to click this and see where we go from there. Yep. And it looks like I'm right. So the 5630 has the same internal plug that the 5150 does. And you can see that little plastic bit inside of the plastic packaging there. So this power cable will technically work in the same receiver. To give you a better idea of what I'm talking about, here is a Yamaha HTR 5540 receiver. The power cable inside of this is exactly the same as it is inside of the HTR 5150. Have a look at this. Exact same pin style, exact same clasp, same everything really. And the reason for that is because why break what already works? I mean, this means that you can technically use the same power cable in this receiver as a replacement for the one in the other receiver without it being an issue. So we're back over to the 5150 with the broken power cable, and out with the old by pressing on the tab up there, and pulling up, and pulling out the strain relief connector, and in with the new. So let's line up the pins with the tab and press down. There we go. I heard a click, and it's pretty solid on there. Yep, perfect. So, to reattach the strain relief connector, the orientation is supposed to be this goes towards the outside. So, if I pop that around the cable, And there we go. And let's see if it lights up. Perfect. The power came on with no issues, and if you chose to replace just the power cable, that's that. But what if you just need to replace the plug end on something? I mean, maybe the inside of the unit is soldered and you don't want to deal with that, or maybe for some reason you can't find a cable quite like the one that you need. Well, here's the other method. So for this method, we're going to need a new plug end, which I found at Home Depot for a couple of bucks, a Phillips screwdriver, and a way to cut and strip wires. So with all of these things set together, we need to find out which way the electricity is supposed to travel. And now, mid-video safety advice. Technically, which orientation you plug something in on an AC circuit does not matter, because the electricity will still flow through it, but that does not mean wire it wrong. Now, just because something powers up does not mean that it powers up correctly, and the orientation is there to prevent people from getting shocked. So take this light for example. The electricity is supposed to travel from the hot pin, which is the small pin on the right, up to the switch, where, once pressed, the electricity... Jesus. The electricity will flow through the rest of the circuit, back down the cord, through the neutral pin on the left, which is the large pin. Now, if we take a look at the light socket, the electricity comes from the center here, passes through the filament of the light bulb, and exits through the screw socket on the side. Now, a switch is always wired to the hot side of the cord to stop the electricity early on from getting any further, but if the plug is reversed, suddenly, everything on the other side of the circuit becomes live. Electricity flows from the hot point on the wall, up the wrong direction, in through the screw socket, and back to the filament, and then stops at the switch. Essentially, what'll happen is, even if the switch is off, you stand a good chance of getting shocked if it's plugged in the wrong way, because it can end up going through your body. So obviously there are a lot of different factors as to where, when, and how, but the point is that there's a standardization that exists for electricity, and it's there for a reason, for safety. And now, back to our regularly scheduled repair. So the first thing that we want to do is figure out which way the electricity is supposed to travel, and if we look inside of the receiver at the wires right here, the hot line is the black wire and the neutral line is the white wire, just as it would be for the wires inside of your wall. So, if we clip off the wire at the other end here, yep, there we have it. We've got our neutral and our hot. Alright, so let's prep the wires. We're going to cut them, we're going to strip them to their appropriate lengths, and based on the plug here, I believe I'm going to need maybe 1.5, probably about 2 inches actually, because just given the general length that this is going to have to be inside of the plug. So let's get to that. To strip these properly, there's a bit of a divide inside of these, and if I cut straight down the center of it, there we go. Okay, you can see there it's broken in half there, and I'm going to keep gently forcing on it. There we go. Just enough to be able to get it apart. And a little more, maybe from the razor blade. Let's try this. And just gently, don't press too hard because I mean you don't want to cut yourself obviously, but just a gentle sawing back and forth and it'll get right between the wires and that'll work to separate them. So far as you can cut them in half now and remove some of the sheathing. So yeah, there we go. So, a little bit more. That's about an inch, I think. Let's test it out. And it's definitely not enough. So, a little bit more. test fit here, and that ought to be good. Okay, perfect. So let's get the sheathing off of that. And it's a little bit stuck on the other wire, so I'm going to press gently into it and see if I can get that off from this side. Because the black wire is exposed, but I still need the white wire. So, a couple of slices. There we go. Get them in. Yeah, there it is. Okay. And we've got the white wire. Perfect. So, pull that back. Oh god. My compliments to Yamaha on the sheathing. This is incredible. Ugh. Cut off the excess. It'll leave less room. There we go. Okay, so I don't mind there being a little bit of excess because we're not going to see it once it's inside of this. There's a little strain relief inside of here that will grab onto the outside of the sheathing, so it won't be too big of a problem. Alright, so done that far. Now let's strip down this other wire here. And I'm just going to saw back and forth on that. See what I can get accomplished here. And once there's a little break in the wire, there we have it. Okay, I can cut around that. Alright, and the copper's exposed. Now let's do it for the black one. Light rub until you feel it break into it, and you can definitely feel when it's hitting copper rather than rubber, so if this is your first time stripping wires, just go slowly, press gently, and there we go. Just a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. So, I've got the two wires stripped, and now I'm just going to twist them off. And that will make it easier to put them onto the retaining screws. So, there we have it. So we're off to a great start. The wires are properly cut and stripped, and now we're going to be looking at the plug here. So from this angle, if you look at it from the plug facing away from you, the hot line is the pin on the right, and the neutral line is the pin on the left. And coincidentally, the screws inside are actually color-coded for that as well. The brass screw is the hot screw, and the aluminum screw here is the neutral screw. Alright. So, we're going to get the black wire, which is the hot wire, around the brass screw on the right-hand side. Tighten it down. Here, I'm going to bend that and make a little hook for it, so it'll be able to attach onto the wire screw better. There we go. And there you have it. Now if I get that there, perfect. All right, and now I have to tighten it down. I'm left-handed. Okay, perfect, and give that a quick tug, and that's not coming off of there. Awesome, that's what I want. Okay, so the neutral white wire is now going to go around the silver screw here, and I'm going to make a little bend in that as well, because that actually makes it a lot easier to get on. Alright, here we go. Around the screw, and this time, there we go. Give that a light tug as well. And perfect. Alrighty, so we're not going to be dealing with the ground, which is the green screw down here, but the ground wire, if there were one, would also be a green wire, and it would attach to the bottom screw here, which would attach to the grounding pin in the bottom there. Whew. Alright, let me give this one more tug, make sure it doesn't come undone. Yep, and that's feeling pretty good. Alrighty, so with that done, let's close up the plug and try it out. And when closing up the plug, just make sure to get it underneath the binding post here, because there is a little plastic thing that's sticking up that the screw on top here is supposed to stick into. So, there we go. Okay, and that's nice and secure, and perfect. Actually, this particular plug does give a tiny little bit of wiggle room, but for the most part, that's okay, because we cut it just enough so that you can't really see any of the wires exposed underneath. And that's essentially what you're aiming for when you're putting one of these on. And now that that's done, let's plug it in and test it out. Alright, so we've got the new plug end on it. Let's see if it works. Is it on? Yes! Awesome! Perfect. Alright, yeah, you can see right here, it's yes! I'm so happy about this. It's working and we've got a new plug end on it. Easy repair. And for only a couple of bucks and a few minutes of your time, I mean, this is awesome. And I'm super happy about that. I don't like it when repairs are half-assed like this. I mean, they're unsafe and tacky in the worst sort of way. I care a lot about my hi-fi gear, and I like to do my damnedest to make sure that it's going to be functional for years to come. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you like this video, you know what to do.